name is Tory. I also go by Zyra in game, and I usually lead raids and strike CMs.
Thank you for coming and hanging out and talking with us about instance content. Um, can you tell me a little bit more about like the type of content you lead in addition to like do you do statics, do you do training, do you do pugs, what's your schedule look like? Any of that.
So I lead one static, I actually co-lead with someone else on Mondays and Wednesdays with BLCC, and then I help lead training raids on Saturdays. And then pretty much every single other day, I fill for a bunch of different statics. I have about 5 to 6 that I tend to fill for
Oh
weekly.
wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, I like raiding.
I can tell. Okay, so you lead one, you do statics on Saturdays, and then pretty much every other day you're filling or attending somebody else's static.
Yes, pretty much.
How would you rate your personal skill level at the game? Which I know is a hard question because it's kind of hard it's kind of hard to define that, but you know, I'm
No,
interested to hear your
totally.
parameters as well.
I tend to be a jack of all trades where I see myself as like above average on everything. There's not one class, one spec or anything that I am like a master of at all. But I feel like I can really jump around, which I love doing in raids because it keeps me from burning out. Being able to be like, you know
Mm.
what, this week I'm just going to heal, or this week I'm just going to play Mechanist. This week, you know what, let's really change it up and pull something I've not touched in a while. So I really like to be able to swap around. So I would say I can handle myself on pretty much every class, but I'm not going to probably be the master of any of them.
Okay. Is there like a preferred role that you usually like to play, either when you're commanding or when you're joining other groups?
When I'm commanding, I prefer to do like healing and stuff because I'm already trying to like look out for like if people are down, if mechanics, stuff like that. So it makes it easier since I'm already looking for that stuff just to call it as I see it. I tend to, when I DPS, I tend to tunnel vision because big
Mm-hmm.
numbers must go hard. So it becomes a little harder for me to remember to keep talking when I'm DPSing. So when I fill for a lot of statics, I tend to go DPS just to give myself a break from supporting from my statics and stuff.
Okay, makes sense. I've found so far like that's a pretty common trend. Is a lot of commanders prefer to be on a healing role for much of the same reasons that you cited.
It totally makes sense because you're already in charge of all those stuff, so might as well be the one in charge of communicating it too.
Yeah, the one person that I talked to, um, one of the people that I talked to earlier, went against that trend and preferred DPS, playing as DPS on Commander, because they can kind of like autopilot the fight and then spend their mental energy doing the callouts and looking at the squad and looking at different mechanics and stuff. That at
I
least is consistent across all the commanders. Is like, yeah, we got to be looking out for all the stuff, but it's just how you do it.
See, I get competitive on DPS, so like I'll be so focused on trying to beat everyone else, and it's like, you know what? Let me put that away for now. Let me focus on actually doing the calls.
Mm-hmm. Um, so you're joining groups pretty regularly. How do you distinguish between when you're going to lead something versus when you're going to join somebody else's group? I know it's a little different if you're joining for somebody's already established static because you're going to be running on whatever they're going to be doing. But like let's say there's a fight that you want to do or some piece of content that you want to do. How do you know when you're going to lead that versus when you're going to join?
I tend to be the one that just gets the leadership role thrown into to my lap a lot of times, especially when it comes to newer content and prog and stuff like that. So when it comes to newer content, I tend to lead that just because I know how much of a time sink it is, and I know not a lot of people um, have a lot of time to be able to dedicate. And I'm at least lucky and fortunate enough to be able to dedicate some time to it. But I absolutely prefer to co-lead with someone. It makes it a lot easier rather than having all the like different things and components that you have to do on one person. It makes it much easier to be like, hey, you be in charge of finding fills this week. I'll be in charge of calls and making sure and finding backups. So I always recommend trying to find a co-lead or at least someone that's able to have your back and back you up whenever you need some help. And then when it comes to like other groups, I enjoy turning my brain off. Um, so I was like my having Mondays and Wednesdays as my static, and then like Saturdays as training. That's enough of having that leadership role for me. So every other night, I'm like, give me the brain off. I will sit back and eat some chips as we DPS and just kill the thing. So
Yeah,
I de-
no, it makes
I
sense.
I definitely prefer to keep it limited, just so I don't overwhelm myself too.
Tell me a little more about co-leading. How did you how did your static start up? How did you get that arrangement? Was it always co-leading? Did it kind of evolve into that?
It actually evolved into that. We had another leader from Wing. I joined the static that I'm in now. I joined it when Wing 4 came out. And then around when Wing 5, like a little bit after Wing 5, that person decided to like, step back from Guild Wars and focus on his career. And he contacted actually three of us. So for a while there, we actually led all three of us. Where like one of us was sort of in charge of finding fills, which tended to be me since I had more of the time and connections, which is another reason why I love filling for other statics and pugging as much as I can so I can find people when we need fills and stuff, and I know who I can reach out to and stuff like that. So I tended to be that role while one of my co-leads is still my co-lead now, Nefarious. He tended to be like making sure that we have all the roles covered and just during the night making sure the quickness and alacrity is correct and all the subs and stuff, so then I can just focus on calling because my profession is a teacher, so I'm used to saying all my stuff and leading in that way. So I tend to be the one that does all the calls. And then the third co-leader we used to have, he tended to be the jack of all trades and fill in the gaps wherever we needed a little more support. Sadly, he's quit since then because of work as well. But we still have our two co-leads, and it just helps a lot, especially when you need a night off. You're like, all right, my night to be off. I'll still be there, but you got to lead everything, so it makes it easier. Like if you need a
Yeah.
night off, you don't have to actually take the full night off. You can rely on someone else to lead the group.
Do you feel like your profession as a teacher really overlaps with your profession, your Guild Wars profession as a
Oh
commander?
yes, 1,000,000,000%. Oh, it's honestly why I love doing training rates, especially, and why it does make it easier. I can make my vocals almost go on autopilot because I'm used to modeling and very verbally saying what I'm doing and demonstrating and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it basically my talking goes on autopilot at some point.
Yeah, I would feel like they're a very natural fit, and I guess if that's part of your personality that keeps driving you driving you back to teaching.
100%.
When did you first start commanding? Was it when those Wing 4 raids came out, or had you done commanding before that?
I was commanding another static around Wing 3, and then it just started, like, it slowly fell apart. It just, like, naturally, nothing like, no bad blood or anything.
Cool.
Just, people were done with Guild Wars at the time. So then that's when I found the static that I'm in now around Wing 4. So I commanded Wings 1 through 3 with another group, and then I joined my static now in Wing 4 and then started leading that one around Wing 5.
Gotcha. Um So you spent, that means if you started playing before beta, or during beta, I mean, you spent a good chunk of time without leading anything. I guess, you know,
Dungeons.
dungeons were
I had a
around,
dungeon
shackles were around.
static. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, like, of course, raids didn't come out until Heart of Thorns, so.
Yeah, I was pretty hardcore, especially in my summers. I was hardcore into dungeon speedrunning back in the day. That was one of my favorite things
Oh,
to
wow.
do. I love soloing loopy. Oh, take me back. I would. I sometimes some of people in our static we sometimes dip our heads back into dungeons. We sort of have like a month there, here and there, that we're like, let's go do some more speedrunning. So it's nice to dip back into the old stuff, but it was definitely dungeons. Then I did fractals for pretty regularly. Didn't really ever command them though, but
Gotcha, gotcha. Um, okay. What is there content in the game? You kind of mentioned, to this earlier, but is there content in the game that you want to complete but haven't yet? And would you command it or would you join a group for it?
so after we got LCM, Febe LCM down, it was right at the beginning of my school year, stuff like that. And I just did not have the stamina to keep leading the group and stuff. And just, I think it was just bad timing for everyone. Like, no one really could step up to take the command. And I think everyone was sort of burnt out from LCM anyways. So, Embodiment of Sin is definitely like on the top of my list. I'm actually sort of hoping I can maybe put together a group this summer, especially since it's coming up. So
Hey, invite me.
I got you. That's what I was gonna say. Don't worry. As soon as you said that, I put that in my head. I was like, I got you. We'll definitely poke you. But and I think at this point too, I'm hoping with all the strats out and stuff like that, it'll make it a little easier too. Which is actually one of the
Mhm.
things I was sort of happy about our Febe LCM, that we waited a long enough for there to be like designated strats already. So it made it a little bit easier to organize and to be able to plan rather than trying to. I like figuring things out on the fly in certain regards, but when it comes to that type of stuff, I'm a planner. I like to figure out the
Mhm.
puzzle and be able to implement it and be able to communicate how to implement it ahead of time rather than like I prefer trying to figure out on the fly when it comes to like normal raids and stuff like that.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I think for Wing 8, right, just came out recently. My
Mm.
group, we went in and did blind progression for it, which I find that to be pretty fun. But, like, I wouldn't do that for the CMs or legendary mode or anything like that because
100%.
there's a big step up in difficulty between a normal mode raid or strike and its challenge mode variant. Usually, the challenge mode variant requires a lot more time to figure out, and that's not usually fun time to put in, I
Exactly. I
think.
was going to say it really depends on your group. Like if they have the energy willing to figure out the puzzle without getting burnt out.
Exactly. Tell me a little more about your Saturday trainings. How do you set that up? Where do you go to look for people? What are you training?
So we have it's like a smaller Discord. It's called Raid Central. If anyone wants a link, let me know. As I advertise it
I can
immediately.
put it in the
Uh,
description if you want.
Please, yes, I'll definitely send it you the link later. But it was actually I joined in with this group later. One of my static members, Naru, is the one that is really spearheaded it along with Mecca and a few. I think some other people helped start it, but and I just fell in love with. I liked it being a smaller group rather than I feel like other raid training discords are almost like too big and feel overwhelming for me. I love going to them; they're an amazing resource, but I tend to like smaller communities when it comes to stuff like
Mm-hmm.
this. So I feel more open to asking questions and stuff. So it's been nice to have that smaller community and give people the opportunity to find different types of communities that mesh with them better. But We tend to have trainings at 2 Eastern on Saturdays, and then one of our other coaches, Mishra, tends to run it usually Saturday nights, sometimes Sundays. I think he was changing his time recently, but we tend to just let people vote on what they want. But if there's like a specific thing that someone wants to like train on, like kiting or something like that, we will always prioritize that first. We try to make sure like people there's a lot of people that will come to our training race specifically to train on a class or something that they or a mechanic that they're not usually doing in their static. So it's this nice in between of brand new raiders, which we tend to get a lot whenever we can't fill all the spaces. That's sort of how we advertise as we just open it up to LFG, and then a lot of people end up staying and continuing to join. Um, and then it's nice to have the more experienced people that want to keep coming back because they can train on a role that they don't typically get to train on. So it's a nice balance, and it
Yeah,
makes it
that's
more
great.
successful as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm thinking about it. Like, honestly, I have not joined a ton of training raids. I've hosted a couple, like some training raids before, and I've joined some, but this is like very occasional. I don't do it on any regular basis. And I always think in my mind of training runs being mostly new players. Um, I've never really considered like what the ideal balance between new players and experienced players should be, but what do you usually find? Like are you are you usually going like 50-50?
It really depends on who is available because it's sort of just open. We open up the like the people post a poll and ping the fill or the role for whoever wants to possibly join, and then it usually ends up being we'll have maybe 1 to 2 new people, but sometimes we'll go a while without any new people. It tends to increase with newer raids releases. So, like with the Wing 8 release, we saw a lot more new people and stuff like that. But then it sort of dies down for a while. So, right now, it's sort of a little quieter. So, we tend to get the like more people that are newer to raids. And then I would say it's like 30% to 40, so 3 to 4 people are
Okay.
newer to raids, while 5 to 6 are more like experienced, but they tend to do new roles. Like we had someone training on tanks who has done DPS a long time, very good DPS player, but he was like, "Well, I want to be able to heal," so it was nice for him to have that place to be able to practice that.
Got it. Okay. And for your regular static or statics, how do you find people to join your squad if say somebody's out that day and you need to fill?
So my typical how I typically do it, one depends on how much time I have before the raid start. If it's raid starting in 10 minutes, I just found out that I'm just gonna ping in our Discord. We have a bunch of people that have the fill role in our Discord, so I'll ping that role, and then if I find someone, great. If not, we just LFG. But if I have more time, I'll usually poke some like people that I've said like, "Hey, reach out to me." I don't look at I have the Discord muted, but just reach out. I'll poke them first, and then I'll ping the fill roll, and then I'll usually about 10 minutes before, like I have some people that usually will reach out to other people, so I'll ask members to reach out to any friends. Then at that point, if I can't find anyone online, then we finally pug.
Yes, as is fairly common in NA servers, the LFG is the last resort.
Yes.
Not always, but often.
Very often.
Are there any changes or features you want to see happen to the LFG? Like what would you want to see altered or added?
I would love a way to like favorite your favorite LFG category, because like for example, I want raids at the top of my LFG because to be honest, open world, I barely touch it. W I barely touch it. So if I can like be able to prioritize the channels that I frequent, that would be awesome. And to have like categories in LG rather than just listing everything in one area. Like have a Dovey Dub category, have a open world category, have an
Mm-hmm.
instance category, so it's easier to find the channels that you specifically want.
Yeah, that's been a common answer I've heard, and I agree as well. Just some way to be able to see what's going on, even if you might not necessarily be looking for it in that moment.
Oh yeah, very very much.
All right, my next question is about expectations, but I'm going to kind of divide it into two because I am very curious to know, as a trainer, when you're getting new players, new people, what are your expectations for people joining your group and training runs?
For draining specifically, as long as they have a close to meta build, I'm not like picky about if it's all ascended, or legendary. I if you have full exotics and it's at least full berserkers, if you're doing power, etc. like that, then that is completely fine. And I don't expect, especially when they're training raids, I very much like make sure to say like, hey, we're going to post the logs at the end. Don't worry about what DPS marks you're trying to hit and stuff. But it's a good way for them to see the reference. And we talk about that at
Mm-hmm.
the end of training raids and talk about the balance of DPS and stuff. But we tend to focus on our training races learning the mechanics first. To be honest, we don't expect them to do that much DPS, especially the first time. Um, and we tell them just to focus more on learning the mechanics because if you're trying to do both things at once, it's just not going to be you're going to miss out on learning the actual important part, which I believe is the
Mm-hmm.
mechanics in that moment. I feel like DPS is something that will come after you learn the mechanics. Because if you don't know mechanics, your DPS is going to be bad anyways, because you're going to be teleported away from the boss half the time and stuff like that. So get the mechanics first. DPS will figure it out later. And we're just very honest about it too. Like we communicate their DPS and stuff so they don't like if they do have low DPS, we don't shame them for it. We don't like point it out. We don't like say at the end. We just post a log and say, hey, if there's anyone wants any feedback or anything like that later, let us know. Stuff like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, totally makes sense. And what are your expectations for somebody joining your group during your static?
Two biggest things. One, don't kill the team regularly. Don't be stepping in every oil that spawns. And two, just at least be higher DPS than the healers. I mean, I definitely would prefer you to be higher DPS than the supports, but sometimes, especially for pulling for bugs, can't you gotta take what you can get. To be honest, most content, especially raids and stuff, let's be real. Most of it, if you have good DPS and people that have been obviously been doing this for a long time, we're going to be able to make it 9-man, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as long as they're not halting or impeding on our capabilities of finishing the raids by messing too many mechanics up, and as long as they're higher than the healers, which I feel like is a pretty like that's a pretty low bar. You just have to make
Uh-huh.
it at least like 3K, right? So that's the biggest things I look for when we have pugs join and stuff like that. And of course not being rude. Don't be mean, you know.
Yeah. Have you ever kicked people from your squad? And what would lead you to kick somebody? Like rudeness, toxicity.
I have definitely kicked people, especially for toxicity. That's the number one reason why I'm going to kick someone. If they're being rude or anything like that, I'm sorry. I just don't have patience for it. We're all adults. We don't need to be rude about anything. Um, and I mean, I'll even talk to people in other, like in static and stuff. If they're being rude, I'm like, come on, let's like, there's no point in bringing that here.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then number two would be like, if they are like constantly wiping us at a boss or something like that, it's just not going to work. Like if we're doing Deimos and they're stepping in every single oil, like at that point you're halting 9 other people from being able to pass the raid, and that's not fair to the other 9 people in the squad. So at that point,
Right.
I always whisper them first. I always whisper and say, "Hey, I'm so sorry, but this is really hurting the rest of the group. Please let me know if you ever need help in the future and stuff like that." Like I don't ever assume they need training, but like if they end up, sometimes they'll respond like, "Oh, sorry, it was my first time," because they didn't read LG and something. Then at that
Mhm.
point, that's when I refer them to the Discord and say, "Please feel free to come anytime." Another recruitment tip.
Yeah. How often do you think that kind of scenario happens?
I have it happen. I've had to whisper someone probably like every other month now. I've had like 3 or 4 of them actually join the Discord and actually join, and that I was more surprised they actually went through the effort of joining, and that I thought that was amazing that they were willing
Mhm.
to actually take the time to join the Discord, which I think is huge.
That's kind of cool. That's like a really organic way of
Yeah, yeah.
finding people. Like, oops, sorry, I joined without fully reading or without fully understanding what your LFG was asking, and but I got a nice training place out of it in the meantime.
Yeah, that's what it just takes a little kindness, and it takes a little bit just being honest. Like that's the biggest thing. Just be honest. Like if you come in and you're like, to be honest, I barely have done this. I'll probably ask if you've at least seen videos before, and then at that point, if you're gonna, it depends on the fight. Like if we can carry you through the fight, maybe. But I tend to just refer them to the training Discord.
Do you have any fun or funny or interesting stories about either pugs that have joined your group or just like good, fond, static memories that anything that sticks out in your mind?
Oh gosh, my my favorite game to play is Pug Roulette. I get actually excited sometimes when we don't find fills, and if you enjoy indulging in drinking and stuff, it is one of my favorite drinking games. It's my favorite drinking game to do Pug Roulette, where
Okay, you're gonna have to tell me what this is.
so if they're lower than the sports, that's a drink. If they like wipe immediately, or especially like wing four CMs, if they like get ported, like if they don't use a special action right away, take a drink. And Mersot Overseer, if they miss a blue, take a drink. It's I have a like I've had this down to science. I would have to write every single boss down, but there's certain like mechanics and stuff I look for. And some nights I regret playing Pug Roulette because it makes it very much harder to command after finishing the entire bottle. You know what I mean? It's some of the funnest nights though, because then it makes pugging not seem daunting. It makes it, you know what, we've done these raids enough times. Let's have fun with it, right? There's no point,
Hmm.
like we're not a very hardcore speed, like we try to like minimize our time and stuff, of course. We're not a hardcore, like we're not timing ourselves or anything like that. Sometimes you just need to shake it up and just have fun, and I feel like Pug Roulette is one of the best ways to shake up night and just have fun with it.
That is funny. I have not heard of that, but that's quite amusing.
Oh, it is some of my favorite nights.
While we're talking about pugs, people joining your group, do you have any like pet peeves?
I think basically what I already said is like just be honest. Be honest about your experience. Be honest about like what you're capable of doing. Like don't join an LFG that's supposed to be experienced. And it's okay. And you know what? If you're newer to Raise, you don't realize the XP means experience, which that has happened before, which I totally like.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you haven't learned the acronym. Sometimes you don't know. Um, as long as you don't like, so I always approach it in a nice way. I don't like, right, you dumb person, you can't read, you must be like, I always am like, hey, I don't know if you know as an LFG, but we did ask for experience. And as long as they don't come back at me, getting mad at me for kicking them after just a miscommunication, like that's just be honest and be nice. That's my biggest
Yeah.
like things. And just so don't lie and don't be mean.
Wiki slash wiki lingo. The lingo page
Yes.
has all the acronyms and it's not very well known about. Like I don't see people linking it that often, but it's great resource.
I should add that to your training rate. I forgot that's there. You're right. I completely forgot that's there.
It's super nice. Do you have any this might kind of blend into the answer that you just gave, but just in case it doesn't, do you have any advice for people that want to start getting into raids, strikes, maybe even fractals, any kind of instance PvE content, but are scared of joining, feeling a lot of anxiety, maybe overwhelmed, not sure where to start, anything like that?
Definitely join a training Discord and feel free to do like whatever type of Discord matches your time and stuff better, because there's a Discord called Raid Academy that is very like popular, a lot bigger community, has a lot more opportunities and stuff. So if you are on a time constraint, that might be a great resource for you to join. And they have amazing commanders over there. And then the if you want like a smaller training like Discord or something, it's a little harder to find them since obviously they're not as like advertised. But
Mm-hmm.
just keep an eye on the training LFG, because that's usually where you'll see those popped up. Sometimes has an advertisement, tends to be empty, but sometimes you just need to keep that LFG up for a while, maybe while you're doing like taking camps in Nuvi Dub or something like that. Just keep it up open and be open, be honest when you join and stuff too. And definitely it is worth joining the Discord. I get like a lot of times people like it like, don't enjoy joining voice all the time. You do not, most of these places, you do not have to have a microphone. Like, feel free to join a Discord, just mute your mic and just listen. And to be honest, if there's a reason why you really don't enjoy Discord, or I mean, sometimes people's computers just can't run it for some reason, at least watch videos and study the mechanics ahead of time, which honestly everyone should do anyways. Like, you should at least be familiar with the fights ahead of time. Um, Especially nowadays, unless you for some reason want to do a blind prog, and then at that point you're gonna have to really dig in, especially if you're doing a wing one prog or something. But just
Mm-hmm.
look at videos and stuff ahead of time, and it'll get you at least familiar with mechanics. You don't have to be an expert on it, but just look at them ahead of time.
Yeah, that's great. I really like Muckluck's get to the point videos because they're so short as well.
100%.
I've had like training runs where somebody joined and we're like, okay, we're on like a 10-minute break. Can you just look up the Muckluck video for like while we're on break for the next like two bosses? At least you're a little familiar.
100%. There's so many good resources on YouTube for getting into race stuff like that. And 100% Muckluck, he tends to be the go-to resource, I feel like, for learning raids.
Yeah, very accessible, I think. So let's talk a little bit more about the logistics of commanding. In your opinion, what do you find to be the hardest part about being a commander?
Definitely balancing schedules. Being able, like, you're balancing 10 people's schedules, and that's already hard enough as it is. I mean, if anyone's ever had a D&D group, you know you know how hard it is to get even two people in the same room at one time. So being able to figure out, one, a way to combat that, and being very like, make sure you have a process for your static, like what the expectations are if you're going to take off. For example, for me, as long as you tell me before our static starts, I mean, I get emergencies happen, stuff like that. I will never be upset about you being like a minute before or something messaging me. But I always tell them, message me. If you tell me out loud, my brain is not going to remember. Put it in writing, documentation, make sure. So then when I mess up, you can point to the message and say, see, I messaged you. I'm like, yeah, you're 100% correct. And I always go back and look at the messages and stuff too. It's a good way to have it concrete. So just always, best way to communicate anytime you're going to be out, do it through a DM, do it through text, and just make sure you are open about that, and make sure you don't just not show up. Make sure you at least let someone know. And if you do have an emergency, of course your static will always remember that. And same with my static. Like, if there's a night where you literally cannot, don't have access, we're a community. We get each other. We're not going to be mad about
Mm-hmm.
someone needing to like step back for a second. So it's just balancing that schedule. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's honestly why I had to step away from doing embodiment of sin, because I was like, I don't have enough people that could fill if I have people out. You know what I mean?
Mm, yeah. Yeah, that's tough. And
Hmm. Luckily, with places like Void Lounge and stuff, that's made it a lot easier to find people and stuff. But I always like to have at least like 2 to 3 people I can poke and stuff when it comes to stuff like that. And
mhm.
I really didn't have that many people I could poke that were available the times we were running.
What about I guess this is like kind of related to the scheduling, but keeping a full roster of 10 people, like when you need to somebody has to leave for a longer period of time. How do you go about filling that spot?
Typically, I have because I raid so often, I can at least usually find like a temporary fail, or maybe I can reach out to people that maybe have stepped away from Guild Wars for a while and be like, hey, if you've been bored recently, why don't you just come back for a month until someone comes back? For example, I have
Suckering them
someone
back
that's,
in.
yeah, right? Come back. And actually, I did do that for this person that's out recently. They're out through the middle of April, and I just find temporary fails, and luckily I can usually find enough fills to fill in the temporary gaps and stuff. I usually have about 1 to 3 people absent from static. It's honestly at this point rare for us to have all 10, just because I feel like winter and the spring is a very tight schedule for a lot of people work wise. So just keeping up with my fill list and making sure I have messages them as soon as I know someone's going to be out. Reach out to them early rather than waiting at the last second, because it makes it a lot easier to schedule it ahead of time.
Gotcha. As a commander, uh are there things that you wish every squad member would know or be cognizant about while you're working through raids or strikes or just clearing your regular content?
Hmm, I basically be patient. Be understanding that, especially like newer content and stuff, just because since we're doing Wing 8 CMs now, be patient with each other because everyone learns in a different way. And this might be the teacher coming out in me. Some people like learn through spreadsheets. That's me. I like making spreadsheets. I
Hmm.
learned by studying. Well, some people just they will not understand a concept until they are in it and they visually see it and they die from it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes they have to learn through experience, and that's okay. It's okay for everyone to have different ways to learn. And yes, it's going to make us like it's going to take some more time because of it. But as long as you're being patient with it and stuff, then it doesn't seem that long because you're at least understanding of each other and you're not getting frustrated with each other and stuff like that. Just know that it's going to take some time for some people, and but just be cognizant that we're all humans at the end of the day too. Like we're not just voices on a computer. We're all people behind the
Hmm.
voice. So just be understanding that sometimes people just have an off day too. That's okay. It's okay for someone to have a bad day. We might need to change some classes around, stuff like that. We might need to change the rules around, but it's okay. It's just be patient and be understanding that we are all human.
Ah, empathy.
Yes.
Tell me about this learning by spreadsheets.
I love spreadsheets.
Same.
I'll give the example of my most recent like spreadsheet shenanigans. Is I decided to do a Wing 8 CM data collection where I took like about how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. About 11 clears of like each boss. I haven't done Ura yet because I'm just not mentally ready yet. But I have basically taken like POVs from YouTube and
Oh.
analyzed them. So I wrote out like their what classes they brought, what roles that they brought, did like, and for example, specifically Decima, like who did they have kiting? Did they have a portal going from the ad to the boss? How did they split? How did they deal with the cone mechanics? Stuff like that without trying to spoil anything. But and so I'm able to visually see what each group did to be able to try to decide, well, what would be best for our group. And so we sort of avoid the hitting our heads against the wall, trying different strats. So, like for example, we're starting Greer now, and I narrowed it down to two different strats, like a tank strat versus a no tank strat, which seems about 50-50, although it seems that more groups are going no tank. So did we try each one? But I already have it set up ahead of time, like how each of those comps are going to look like. So then that way we're not trying wasting time on figuring out like a new strat in the moment. We already at least preemptively have said, oh, these are the ones we're going to try. And then of course, if there's something anyone else wants to try, we will try it too, of course. But so nice to go in with a plan.
Yeah, dang, you are a planner.
I'll DM you the sheet now.
Yeah, maybe I'll put a screenshot of it on the video.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm sure they'll love it.
What other kinds of like tools or add-ons or any other kind of external resources do you use other than your spreadsheets?
um, Typically, I mean, just the typical ARC DPS stuff like that. In my opinion, boon table is the most important thing. I mean, DPS is important, but having a boon table and having it regularly right in front of your face to be able to see boons immediately. So then you can immediately say 5 seconds to do the fight. Oh, Chrono, you forgot to change your trait, rather than wasting much longer. Like I can see immediately we have no quickness. So boon table is huge because then you're able to determine if it's a missing boon or something like that. But that's basically all. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I use. Not really. It's mainly just ARC DPS and like a boon table. And then of course like everything that comes with ARC DPS, like a CC. CC is super important too. CC, man, yes. Call out those people not CC. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's funny. Our group has gotten to the point that like some fights are not a DPS race; it's a CC race. Like my favorite one is Oncasium, where they will purposely go CC the worms so they can be top of the CC bar.
Oh my gosh.
So you just see a firebrand like way in the corner putting down a sanctuary on top of a worm as her team.
I gotta be top of some chart.
It's so funny. I'm like, and that's also what keeps a group together is fun stuff like that. Just be able to like take these raids and make them more than just a DPS race. Like make it a fun moment for the group. It's 100% my favorite.
That is funny. I like that.
This goes back to the question before about funny stories. One of my favorite things that my group does is for my Trincium, during like the bomb phase where you have to like go into a circle. One of our static members will close his eyes and I have to guide him, like say left, right, to get him to the circle.
Oh my
And so
God.
then other people that are static will like shout over me so like they can like try to confuse them and stuff. And he makes it most of the time. There's probably been only like one or two times that he's died. But that's every week is like one of my favorite things that we do.
And you just do that with whoever randomly gets selected?
No, it's just it's a one specific person. If he gets the bomb, it makes it even harder because then I have to lead him to the bomb, tell him to drop it, then lead him back to the circle.
Oh, I see. I was picturing like the bomb person only, but yeah, just to get to the safety circle.
Yeah, just to get to the safety circle, and he'll even turn himself around first, and like run, like he'll like get disorient himself so he can't see. And it's so
quick 10-second minigame. Let's go.
Literally, it's so much fun.
That is hilarious. If you have a clip of that or any kind of video,
I did ask Naru. She might have it from because she streams. So
okay, yeah. If you have one, let me see that. That is hilarious.
It is my favorite.
Okay, well, we're almost through all the questions. Um, Back to like commanding real quick. Do you have any advice for somebody who wants to be a commander?
I think one, it depends on your like level of experience. I mean, obviously, if you've never done raids, definitely starting with like a training group or something like that for sure. And honestly, really focusing on the community aspects. I really think if you sort of start it off as like a training group or something like that, especially if you have newer members to raids, I think that helps like build those connections and you sort of grow together and sort of you build that foundation together as well too, right? You get used to how each person deals with mechanics and stuff like that, and I think that's sort of a nice way to grow and connect in a natural way. And then if you have a bunch of like experienced people trying to get together, just make sure like expectations are set at the beginning. And I always will say it's always nice to have at least someone, maybe not necessarily a co-leader, but maybe someone that's sort of like you can trust to be able to step in whenever you need a moment or something like that, just to help out and
Mm-hmm.
stuff too. Because that helps avoid getting burnt out as well. And I think also bouncing off that burnt out thing, I think by focusing on it being a rating community, I think helps that burnout as well, because you're not there just to get the clears, you're there to be with your friends. And we've had a lot of people that have been very honest. They're like, honestly, I would not be rating right now if it wasn't like for I just want to hang out with you guys. I mean, I feel like that's sort of where we are as a group. Like a lot of us may be burnt out on some of the contents, which is natural, especially the older stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
we just like to be with each other. We like to have fun. So it keeps it from feeling just repetitive.
Yeah, I think that's a really common theme I've heard as well. And I know that's true for like me and my group, a lot of us as well, is it's about the social aspect. You're there to hang out with this group of people that you like and have fun with. And the rating just happens to be what you're doing. Right?
Exactly.
Is there anything else you want to talk about in terms of commanding or raids or strikes or anything? If I mean we covered a lot, so if not, that's okay.
I would say the highlight is just communication is key and be nice. Like communicate with your fellow people and just be nice to each other. And that'll avoid a lot of any issues that you might have, to be honest. Just be patient.
Okay. Well, the last two questions I have are more of the fun ones. Um, to round out our conversation. So, first, is there anything that you're currently working towards in the game? It doesn't have to be related to raids or strikes, just anything in general. I mean, maybe it is working around raids and strikes, but you let me know.
Um, with like objects, I just finished Conflux. I actually
Oh,
forced
nice.
myself to go into Dovey Dub. I'm just kidding. Actually, I love zerging in Dovey Dub. It's just sometimes finding a zerg is rough, but I'm glad I finally got Conflux done, so I'm fully purple. Finally,
Nice.
I might work on legendary armor on my alt account. I haven't decided yet. When it comes to raid specific, obviously working on Wing 8 CMs. We got Decima working on Greer, but we're not meeting as often for that. So it's going to take some time just because we're being patient with it. We're not really grinding it or anything, but that's what we're working at least content wise.
Okay. And final question before we head out is what's your Guild Wars 2 hot take?
Bring back Druid Staff 3 Evade. Bring it back.
Oh,
I
okay.
want my staff 3 to evade again. I'm sorry. It should have never been taken away. I need my staff 3 evade. And also bring back Ellie Downstate Lava Font. Give them that. At least they deserve it. They deserve it. They deserve the Downstate Lava Font. So please give them what they rightfully deserve. Drew deserves staff 3 evade and Ellie deserves Downstate Lava Font.
Okay. Man, when was Druid 3 staff taken away? That was such a long time ago, wasn't
Long
it?
time ago, and it still hurts me to this day. It's been so
I mean,
long.
Lava Font was a long time ago too.
But it's just it's still to this day I miss it. It's like the one thing I miss. My one of my friends jokes all the time that whenever he gets that whenever he gets like porter or something while doing staff 3, he jokes that he reports it every time as a bug. I'm like, don't do that to them. And I feel
Oh
it
my
it does
gosh.
feel like a bug, but I know it just hurts me.
That's funny. Well, I think that's all the questions I have today. Thank you so much for joining me and talking about commanding and talking about groups. It's really fun.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I love stuff like this, and I love that you're getting this information out. So truly, thank you, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this.